he got it from a source that he trusted, or he might have just made it up. And it's Biz, so I never take what Biz says too seriously because at the end of the day, he's just trying to generate attention for the Spit and Chicklets podcast and the TNT broadcast. Which oddly enough, Sabres Red Wings game was on TNT last Wednesday. Biz not there.
Today is March 15, 2025. Welcome to the Checking From Behind podcast. I'm your host, Zach, as always, joined by my co-host, Preston. Preston, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Finally getting some nice weather out here in Western New York. Went for a little run outside today. It's been nice. It's nice to not have to bring a winter jacket with you everywhere you go. Hopefully, it's here to stay. It's been a pretty tough winter. Hockey's getting good now. We're in the final stretch of the regular season. Most teams have about 15 or so games left to play this year, so it's getting pretty tight, especially for these wild card races in the East and West. It's getting pretty intense.
This is the most exciting time of year, at least for myself, for whether it's playoff races, whether it's playoff matchups come April. And then after that, you just get deeper and deeper into the playoffs. It gets more exciting. And then on top of it, you come June, you have the draft July 1st free agency, and then bang, you're right into the offseason, which, maybe sometimes it sucks that the season is slowly starting coming to an end or whatever, whether it's the regular season playoffs. But at the same time, though, as people who cover the game, I mean, this is just great content. It's also great hockey to watch, too, because you get meaningful hockey, right? Like a game between the, let's say, Panthers and Maple Leafs, for example, right? That means so much more if they have a matchup in March rather than October, November, December, and stuff like that going into the new year. So I think overall, though, this is the most exciting time of year for myself.
And I would argue also for these teams that are battling for these wild card spots, they're already playing playoff hockey right now because this is like it for them. They have about 2.5, 3 weeks to get into the playoffs. Like,
yeah.
In the East, you have like about 5 teams in that conversation. In the West, it was looking like it was 2 for a while, but in St. Louis and Utah have gotten themselves in that conversation, both within 2 points of that last wild card spot that the Flames have been holding on to for a while. Their grip is getting very, very loose, so it's going to be really interesting to see.
How about that man, Alexander Ovechkin, too? So he is, he's less than 10 goals away, right? He's like
9
9
away,
goals?
yeah.
He's 9 goals away.
Yeah, from breaking, 8 away from tying.
He would be 8 away, except he gave up an empty net goal to give his teammate Alexei Protas a hat trick goal. Did he end up getting the hat trick goal at all?
Yeah, he scored.
Okay.
Yeah. He scored on the empty net goal. I think they had like a 2-0 or 2-1 or something, and Ovi passed it to him.
So unselfish.
Look, man, like I get you're the captain, you lead by example. You're trying to get the dude. It might have been his first hat trick. I'm not sure. Trying to get him the empty net goal so he can get that stat padded. But dude, I don't know no one in the world would be mad at you if you just said fuck it, I'm scoring here. You're 9 goals away from history. Take whatever you can get, man.
Yep. But I do think that he cares. I think he genuinely cares.
That tells you how good of a leader he
Yeah.
is. That he's willing to sacrifice like something like that just to give. I think Protas has been in the league for a few years. He's not a rookie.
Yeah, he has.
But
was great.
Yeah, amazing contract, right? Yeah. They're probably happy they did it last year than this year.
Yeah.
He's probably mad about that too if I'm the player. But I mean, I think that just speaks to, like I said, how good of a leader Ovechkin is, and how selfless he is, and really how he's changed over the years. Because I think young Ovi, not a carrot, he would have just scored. Young Ovi didn't play defense. He was kind of infamous for not. It was, I remember old NHL memes of it would be Alexander Semin. Do you remember when Semin was on the Capitals?
Yeah, I do.
Him and Ovi were on a line together, and they would never play defense. Like Ovi would sometimes be in the neutral zone when the puck was in the defensive zone because he did not have any hustle getting back.
That's crazy.
But he was scoring 40, 50 goals every year that the coaches didn't really care.
I mean, yeah, when you're putting up the production that Ovi did back in his day, and even now too, like, who gives a fuck about defense? Now, obviously, he cares more about it now than he did when he was younger.
When they hired Barry Trotz, that changed things. That's why they won the cup, because Barry Trotz made everyone play defense. You had to get back and do your job. He didn't give a fuck if you were Ovechkin or a fourth-line grinder. You're playing defense. Like, you have to get back, and that's why they won the cup, because Ovi finally started playing defense.
And he understood that maybe defense does win championships in a way.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
I mean, like when you look at the game of hockey, you cannot have wingers that do absolutely nothing but play offense. Like, of course, you're gonna have those guys that are better than others at defense, no doubt about it. And even if there's a certain winger, that sounded like I was not trying to name names, but just in general, like if there's a certain winger that doesn't play defense, well, that sucks at defense, but like he knows to play defense, like that's one thing. But if there's another guy that's just cherry picking, like top of the blue line, you go into the neutral zone, like go play fucking defense. I don't think
I
like
mean, you don't have
it's
to like go hound the zone. Like, just put pressure on like
yeah.
the guys with the puck and get back and make sure like they don't have an easy entry into the zone. Yeah, like stuff like that. That's the stuff that really matters, especially when you get into the playoffs. Like, it's one thing to in the regular season to kind of be lackadaisical on defense when you're playing different teams every other night and, you're traveling all over the place. But then in the playoffs, it's different. You're playing the same team for at least 4 games in a row, and they're going to make adjustments and they're going to target you.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the best defensive teams end up most likely at least going to the cup final. We've seen it in the past, like we've seen it with Vegas, we've seen it with Florida, and even Colorado in 22. We saw it with Tampa Bay.
That Colorado team was ridiculous.
I mean, they could do everything:
They
power
could
play, penalty
score
kill,
10
score,
goals a
defense.
game. They could win a 1-0 game comfortably. They were just on a different level.
They were.
I think if like those last 5-6 years of the cup winners, I think they were the best cup champion team just
Yeah.
overall.
They rolled everybody in the playoffs too. They ended up winning the first round. It was either 4-0 or 4-1, and then they beat St. Louis 4-2, and then I think they swept Edmonton in the Western Conference
Yep, they
Finals.
kicked their ass.
Yeah, they did. And then they ended up beating Tampa 4-1.
I thought it was 6.
Was it 6? No, you're right. We've went over this before. It was 6.
Yeah. I mean, that was their hardest series was against Tampa. The one of the last 2 cups.
It's still nuts to me that like in the Western Conference bracket before they got to the finals, they had a decent amount of trouble compared to other teams against St. Louis, and it literally took, I think, what was it, Game 5 for McKinnon to take over that game in order to get out with a win, which is
Yeah, I remember he didn't have like a crazy like coast to coast goal.
coast to coast, a move around. I don't know who the defender was, but anyways, he ended up getting the puck over Binnington's shoulder. No, maybe it was
Mhm.
Husso. Maybe it was Husso. I think it was Husso because Binnington was hurt during that playoff run, I think, by the Blues. Either way, though, yeah. So Adin Hill signed a hefty contract a couple days ago. He ended up signing a contract extension worth 5 years by $6.5 million with the Vegas Golden Knights. I think this is a fair deal for both sides. I love it for Adin Hill. I love it for Vegas. Vegas, again, I get why they signed him to the bridge deal, the 2 or 3 year deal after the Cup Finals, because, he was just coming into stardom, and they wanted to make sure they weren't making the same mistake that some other teams did and sign him to like a 6x6 or 7, whatever it was. And
Mhm.
he proved Vegas, like he told Vegas, like, hey, I'm your goaltender. You trade away Logan Thompson. He's still playing at a very high level. I mean, this season he has a 2.54 and a 907 save percentage.
I would
So
say Hill is an average goaltender, an average starting goaltender. Like,
I think,
he can have a big game every once in a while. I think he's the right goalie for that team, though. I think that's more important.
yeah. I mean, he's good for sure, and I'm not saying like.
You could do a lot worse than him.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
I'm not
because
trying to say he's not good. You could do a lot worse than Adin Hill.
but also I do think with how the goalie market is, you're kind of stuck with the goaltender you
Oh
have on your
yeah,
team.
average
Like
goalies are going to start getting paid around $7-8 million a year just with the cap going up. Just
I
because, like I said, even finding an average goalie now, it's like quarterbacks. If you're an average goalie, you're going to get paid.
yeah, and I do think though, are you calling Aiden Hill average? Like
I think
just
he's average. I think he's like an average, like a mid-tier goalie. Like
I
top, I
wanna
think he's top 15 for
I
sure.
want
But I wouldn't I wouldn't say he's elite.
I kind of want to disagree. I'm not putting him in the elite category. I'm basing it off of Connor
Yeah,
Hellebuck.
I get settle on above average.
Yeah, I think he's above average. Like I don't think he's quite in the elite tier, and it's like Connor Hellebuck's in the zone tier. You have the elite tier, and then I think you have above average to average. Unless you want to throw like a good in between elite and above average, then you can do that. But I do think that Adin Hill, he gets the job done, and it's like he can be the goaltender and possibly take Vegas to another cup, especially with how deep this team is, especially their top 9 up front is good. They have the defensive structure, and if Adin Hill just makes his stops that he's supposed to make, this team is dangerous. Like, it's just,
I mean, he has been phenomenal for Vegas in the playoffs. When they won their Stanley Cup, he had a 932 save percentage, which is amazing. And then last year, he only ended up playing 3 games, but he had a 931 save percentage in those 3 games that he played. So he's been good in the playoffs. He could step up when they need him to. And I think for Vegas, this was an easy decision, especially after trading away Logan Thompson. You got your guy, and now you don't have to worry about a goalie for 6 years.
yeah, and now all you have to worry about is just the backup situation and being like, you know what, we'll just sign a bridge goaltender, like 2-year contract, something like that. I mean, nothing too crazy. And now you have Adin Hill.
Yeah, my camera. Shit the
Okay,
bed.
you're good. Now you have Adin Hill, who's like, yeah, I'll give you 55 games a season right now, and like be okay. So I like the contract for both sides. Let's hop over into the Eastern Conference. The Ottawa Senators have won 5 straight games. Cousins looks like a different player, like me and you projected. And also,
Chris, if you're listening, you're cooked, buddy. I don't know what you were thinking.
dude, I don't care that it's like 4 or 5 games in. Cousins
Dude,
looks
2 years
phenomenal.
ago, our friend Chris, 2 years ago, biggest Cousins fan ever. He's like, "Oh, this dude's the future of our team. I love him." Is that now he's like a professional hater? Like
I don't
I've
get
never
it.
seen a
Like,
dude switch up so much.
and I love it how when me and you, like, we're hockey fans, and we're like, you know what? It would be fun to see Brady Kachuk in the playoffs. And I'm like, you know what, Chris? You're not a hockey fan. You're a fucking Sabres fan. He's like, you know what? I am a Sabres fan. I was like, I respect that. But when your hockey team, when your favorite team hasn't been in the playoffs for 14 years, at this point, I just want to see good hockey in the playoffs. I don't care if
The
it's
Sabres have me questioning everything, man.
no,
It's tough.
for real,
I
for
can't. I
real.
don't know how much more I could take.
I don't.
But
Um.
we'll get into that later. Let's talk about Ottawa.
Yes. Ottawa looks phenomenal, man. Like, Allmark had a ridiculous save the other night. Save of the year, Canada, right there. If it's
I
not
think that is
already,
the save of the year. That is the save of
dude,
the
he
year, in my
got
opinion.
that.
I don't know how. I still don't know how he did that.
That dude dove over and somehow got the puck. Somehow got it. That's Allmark's playing
Yeah.
lights out. And this
Allmark's been
team,
everything Ottawa's wanted him to be when they traded for him.
I will stress this, and again, I'm gonna toot our own horn for the second time in the last like 2 minutes. We said if the Ottawa Senators can get a goaltender, this team can make some noise. And it's happening right now. This team is a little bit streaky, though, which I don't like. But it doesn't matter, though, when you have the consistency that they have of
Oh, just helps
having Allmark.
calm you down.
And on
Yeah.
top of it, you get a guy in Dylan Cousins, which, in my opinion, has a higher ceiling than Josh Norris. You basically do a one-for-one swap. And a guy who has
They're
consistently...
paying him less than Norris.
Exactly. And he's 2 years younger, too. And I think you have him for a year longer, too. So you have all the advantages with Cousins, and now you have depth to your team. And now also he has consistently played 65 to 70 games a season since he came into the league in 2021. So that trade has revitalized Cousins. He looks great in the Senators uniform. It looks like this team is clicking on all cylinders. And overall, if Ottawa gets in the playoffs and they're still hot in a month, they could potentially upset a team in the first round.
I'm gonna make a statement here regarding the Ottawa Senators. I think they are going to make the playoffs. Like,
I
just
think
period.
it's clear cut right now.
I think the way they've been playing, they built themselves a 5-point cushion right now over Columbus and New York, who have tied for the last playoff spot. I think this spot is Ottawa's to lose, and I don't think they're gonna lose it.
I know it's only a 5-point lead. I do think that it's not going to be a generational choke if they miss the playoffs, but it's going to be like, what the fuck
They
happened?
control their own destiny.
I have to do, honestly, so they have that, 17 games left. I did the math in my head. Good job.
Yep.
17 games left. You win 10 of those, you're in the playoffs easily.
Yep.
You win 10. Even if you just go 10 wins and then 7, if you go 10-7-0, you're in the playoffs. 20
I mean,
points.
they're only 4 points back at Tampa for third in the division, which I don't think is out of reach either.
No. If Ottawa in their last 17 they somehow pull off 13 wins, that you could be looking at them facing Toronto in the first round as a
That
2
would
and
be
3 seed
amazing. That
instead
would
of
be a
1 and
great
1.
series. I mean, I'm completely on board with Ottawa playing Florida or Toronto in the first round. I think that'd be super fun. You either get the Kachuk brothers or Ottawa versus Toronto, and you get Brady Kachuk going on a rampage
The Battle of
against the Maple Leafs.
Ontario, baby. The Battle of Ontario.
I mean, I really want to see Brady Kachuk in the playoffs.
Me too. It's
Like, I think he'd be on a different level. I mean, I'm a little afraid that he'd hurt himself because he'd be playing that hard. But, we've never seen him in the playoffs. I think this is I think the biggest thing for this Ottawa team right now is just getting into the playoffs. Because you said they're streaky. They still have a pretty young core. They have some decent veterans in there. Claude Giroux's been a good contributor to them. They brought in David Perron this year, Adam Gaudette, who's been pretty solid for them too in that bottom six role. And then you have your young guys like Tim Stutzle, Dylan Cousins. I think is going to be a great player for them for a long time. I think that's going to be a trade they look back on in a few years, and they're very happy they did that. Drake Batherson is a guy I think is a little bit underrated. Shane Pinto, like I can go on. Jake Sanderson, I think is a future elite defenseman. He's getting there. He's getting better every day.
Fuck it, name their entire roster. Nicholas Manton-Palo. He's
Dennis Gilbert's going to be a Norris winner next year. But I can go on and on. I mean, I think, Travis Green has been the right coach for them this year. And I think just them getting in the playoffs, I think will do wonders for them just going forward. And like I think getting in, even if they lose in the first round, which I think they would, they're a pretty unexperienced team outside of a few players they have. So, and a lot of these guys will be their first time in the playoffs. Just period.
I'm going to ask you this question. So,
Yeah.
out of possible playoff matchups that Ottawa can have, is there a team that you look at and you're like, you know what, maybe Ottawa can go out and upset them in the first round?
I don't know. I don't think they beat Toronto or Florida. I think they make it interesting. I mean, if I had to pick, because those are the two most likely first round matchups, is Toronto or Florida. Pretty much, I would say whoever wins the Atlantic is probably going to end up having to play Ottawa. I mean, they could get into that third spot in the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to happen, though.
Possibility, but yeah.
So, most likely they're playing the Florida Panthers. I think I would take the Panthers in 6 in that series. But I think Ottawa will give them hell.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Is like in the Atlantic bracket, I don't think that they can beat either Florida or Toronto, which are the, like you said, the two most likely matchups or whatever. Because I don't see Tampa catching up to Florida, and I don't see Toronto falling down to play Ottawa or whatever. Anyways, and like if, for example, let's say hypothetically, which I don't think is going to happen, they fall down into the Metro bracket, and for some reason Columbus, New York, or any of those teams fighting for the second spot go on a ridiculous run, snag the first spot. I think at that point,
I think they'd have a better time against Washington, honestly, than Florida.
Yeah. No, I'm so with you. And that's.
I still think they'd lose that series in the end, but I think they could push that one to 7.
I think 7 games is realistic if they ended up for some reason facing a team like Washington, but
I think the thing that makes Ottawa so dangerous in the playoffs is they're just there. Like they have no expectation to go out and win even a series. If they push a series to 7, that's really good for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're just
at least coming from an outsider's perspective, I'm sure they want to get in the playoffs. They want to win the cup.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Okay, but outside of that organization, I'm sure there's not really a lot of pressure on them, and they're just playing with house money. They can go out and have fun, and Brady Kachuk can be a wrecking ball and destroy everybody, and then score 7 goals in that series, right? So I think they'd have a better chance of beating Washington than Florida, but I think they'd be really fun to watch no matter what, and I would be happy to see new teams in the playoffs.
I praying to God Ottawa stays in the playoff spot because they're fun. They're a fun team to watch. Genuinely.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I'm sticking in the Atlantic Division. We're pivoting over to the Buffalo Sabres against, it's more Rasmus Dahlin versus Paul Bissonnette. So for you guys that don't know what happened and have been living under a rock, Paul Bissonnette, I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday, ended up going on the Spit and Chicklets podcast saying he heard from a little birdie that he heard from a source that Rasmus Dahlin had a meeting with Adams, which did happen. We'll get into in a second. But then also he said that Dahlin said to Adams that if things don't change, that he's gonna want out or whatever. Like, and Dahlin later that day had got asked about that.
He actually called for the press conference.
He
He asked
called
the me
for
he
it.
wanted to talk to the media. Yeah, they didn't.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know.
it was all initiated by him. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know he called for it, but yeah, he called for
Hmm.
the press conference and then denied the rumors right away. Well, not the rumors, but what Biz said or whatever. I guess you can call them rumors. He obviously the meeting with Adams did happen, which I thought's a great sign for a captain with Dahlin, and I think they
That's not
have
abnormal though. Like the
no.
captain is entitled to that knowledge.
Oh, of course, and
Yeah.
I as a Sabres fan, I do appreciate the fact that our captain and one a top 10 defenseman in the league, franchise defenseman, all of it, came away from that meeting satisfied. But at the same time, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't trust a fucking thing that Kevyn Adams does until he proves us otherwise. So like,
I mean, the last few GMs he has been the most successful
yeah,
GM. I mean, which is it's not a
it's
very
a
high
low
bar to
bar.
cross, but because Jason Botterill was a disaster. Tim Murray was not great either, but Kevin Adams very low bar to pass. But yeah, from what we heard, Kevin Adams and Rasmus Dahlin did have a meeting. It was before the trade deadline, so before they traded Cousins, and Dahlin kind of just wanted to know what the plan was. He's in year one of an 8-year contract. He's the captain. He's in there for the long haul. He's been there his whole career. Hasn't played a playoff game, and he has every right to wonder what's going on. And I think that's a good sign from your captain that he's that engaged and he cares that much about wanting to fix this. If anything, that would tell me that he's not asking for a trade right now. I
Hmm.
mean, I wouldn't blame it at all. Like 2 years, the Sabres are still dog shit, not even close to sniffing a playoff spot. Yeah, go somewhere else, man. Go. You're a great defenseman. You don't need to suffer in
Hmm.
Buffalo anymore.
I
Yeah.
I'll go to Rasmus Dahlin's house personally and be like, get the fuck out of Buffalo right now. I'll give you a plane ticket to go to a team that actually has a chance to make the playoffs, win the Stanley Cup, whatever, because this dude deserves it. Rasmus Dahlin puts his heart and his soul into playing this game, whether they're losing 7-0 or if they're up 7-0. That dude puts his body in the line, and I really appreciate the fact about him, honestly, about that. And
Yeah, but I don't get what Biz was the point Biz was trying to get across with this. Like, he may have like got it from a source that he trusted, or he might have just made it up. And it's Biz, so I never take what Biz says too seriously because at the end of the day, he's just trying to generate attention for the Spit and Chicklets podcast and the TNT broadcast. Which oddly enough, Sabres Red Wings game was on TNT last Wednesday. Biz not there. I don't know if that was something that was planned or they changed it last minute, but no, because I was kind of looking forward to seeing what Biz would have to say about that. Yeah, no show. So I
some
don't know if that's just him, like they just trying to not acknowledge what he said, or he like legitimately wasn't planning on being there.
I some of it may when Biz came out with that, I was like, you know what, maybe this is like
Yeah, trying to get
he's
ratings for the game on Wednesday
right,
because
like
it's the
just trying to
Sabres and
get
the Red
people to
Wings. How many
watch.
people are watching that game?
Right, like not a ton, genuinely.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, he's. I don't know if they announced he wasn't going to be on, but either way, though, after the game, they're like, yeah, he wasn't on the broadcast. I'm like, then this doesn't make sense. Like, did he plan on being there? He said that, and then the production team or whatever is like, yeah, like we can't have you on or whatever. Like I don't know.
I
Like,
mean, I know he travels a lot. He does stuff with like TSN in
mhm.
Canada. He does the podcast. I'm sure he's a busy guy. He's all over the league, all over the country and Canada and the U.S. But yeah, weird. He's usually there every Wednesday. So
Yeah, I don't know. It seems really fishy to me.
yeah, I mean, this wouldn't be the first time Biz just try to generate attention. I mean, but he's a media guy. That's his job.
Yeah, and I mean, if he made it up, then
You
he
got people
definitely
talking
got
about
the
it. He
clicks.
won.
He
Like
he
we're
he,
talking about it right now.
he got the clicks. He got the engagement. The media. I mean, dude is a media personality. So I mean, that's his job, like you said. And I don't know. I it I don't like the entire situation.
I mean, I think the thing that makes people question this more is like it's not unreasonable to think that that might have actually happened though,
Yeah.
because you look at Darlene and would anyone blame him for wanting out? I
Nope.
don't think so.
I mean, if he tomorrow he asks for a trade, nobody's gonna sit here and be like, you're a selfish player, this and that. Like, no, everybody's gonna be like, well, you're a premier player in this league. You're the one of the faces of the league. Like, go, like, it's fine. This isn't a Jack Eichel situation, which a lot of Sabres fans are butthurt over that. This is more of a, yeah, we realize we're a dumpster fire. Like, you don't deserve this type of deal. So,
Yeah, no, at this point, I can't really blame any player for not wanting to be in the Sabres organization. There's several players on this team that I don't want in the organization anymore.
do you mind
They're
naming them?
interesting because, I mean, I can name a couple of them. I
Okay.
think Peyton Krebs needs to go. I don't
Mm.
really see what he brings to the team. Connor Clifton, my boy Cliffy Snipes, Matthias Samuelson, I think is a pylon
Yeah,
out
get him
there.
the fuck out.
Um, I'm not super high on Jack Quinn either, just to name a few. But the problem is, guess how many UFAs the Sabres have next year?
I feel like zero,
Two.
two,
Jacob Bryson and James Reimer.
and I don't think either. Yeah, actually, you know what? They're gonna bring Bryson back on like a one by $775,000 deal.
The minimum, yeah. But
Yeah.
then they have six RFAs. Two bigger ones being JJ Paterka and Bowen Byram. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with those two. Um, but this is a team I think that needs a major shakeup. I don't know how it happens because they have most of their guys on long-term deals.
You need to. There's a couple ways that you can shake this team up. Either A, you fire somebody. Kevyn Adams isn't getting fired. It doesn't feel like Lindy Ruff's gonna be
The
fired.
problem is they can't really change the roster too much. Because, I mean, you just acquired Josh Norris is on a long-term deal. Tage Thompson's untouchable, in my opinion. You extended Jason Zucker. Alex Tuck's a guy that could be moved, but I wouldn't move them if I were them. I don't think that makes sense to me. Jordan Greenway, you just extended. You just traded for Ryan McLeod. I think he's worth extending. I think he's been really good for the Sabres. Sam Lafferty's a fourth liner. I don't know how much you'd get for him, especially at a $2 million cap hit for a fourth line grinder.
Mm-hmm.
Krebs, some team would trade for him. I think. Malenstein, you traded the second round pick for him. That would be a bad look to trade him after a year.
Mm-hmm.
Then defensive wise, I guess they had a chance to move on from Matthias Samuelson last year. I guess Philly was really interested in him. They didn't do it. I mean he's only making $4.2 million, which isn't crazy, but he should not be playing top pair or top four minutes. He's a bottom pair defenseman.
Weren't the Flyers offering Farabee for like Krebs and
I
Samuelson
don't
or
know. I know
something?
they were very interested in Samuelson though. I know like they were pushing hard.
Yeah, and
And
I
Kevin
mean
Adams just was like, I'm not interested.
at the time it felt like even at the time I was like, you know what, I'm okay with Samuelson. Like he'll be fine. Like I think he's a core, this part of the core. And then last season happened. This season happened. Like rough. But yeah, I mean, you had a chance to move on from guys like Samuelson and Krebs, and you decided not to, and now their value is kind of at an all-time low, it seems. And like you said, there's not a lot of chances and opportunity to change this team up unless it is via trade. Unless, like Elliot Friedman brought up, that he thinks the Cousins trade is the biggest thing that the Sabres are gonna do up until even over the summer, and that has me asking the question to myself like, is he talking about just via trade? Is he talking about free agency? Because if he's talking about just the overall structure of the offseason, including free agency, they're not going out and improving their top six if that is the case at this point. And that's the one gripe that I have with the team is just go out and get a legitimate top six forward, another one, and then also just go out and improve your blue line, improve your second and third line defensive core. And I think I know it's harder said than done because it's harder, especially when you've missed the playoffs for 14 years and your organization has a bad rep. But you just have to put it into action. I get the ownership, well, not even ownership, but like Adams and Lindy Ruff, they're saying the right things, and that's fine. But it's just a matter of you've lost trust in the fan base. Just go out and do it. You don't even need to get a guy like a Brock Besser or a Mitch Marner or whatever. Go out. I don't know what the free agency class looks like, but go out and get
Not
a
great.
guy. Yeah. Go out and get a guy that can slot into your first line at some nights and your second line some nights, and you'll be okay. Like that's I know people were killing the Sabres over the offseason for not filling the top six hole and to not going out and trading for a guy like Ehlers. But at the same time, it's hard to do that, especially that most top tier players now have some type of no movement clause or modified trade clause or this and that. And now, like, and on top of it, free agency, like UFAs, those players have to be willing to come to sign for you. And maybe some UFAs are like, you know what? I want an 8x8 and I want a full no movement clause, and they're 28 years old, for example. Like Kevyn Adams doesn't do those type of moves, and I think that's what's hindering. And did you see the poll did you read the article that the ESPN did or whatever on the
I I
Sabres?
I skimmed it. I
Um,
mean, it wasn't really any new information to me, but I've been saying those things for years.
I mean, hold on. There's something that stuck out to me. Okay, so the one thing that stuck out to me was an anonymous NHL agent on Terry Bagula. I'd be willing to spend to the cap rather than have an arena that's half full with people calling for me to sell the team. And I mean, that feels like that's the case. Like, just if you spend money and you miss the playoffs, you're going out with the fight, right? The
I mean, at
Sabres,
least from an ownership perspective, you could say like, hey, we're trying, we're spending the cap. Like, what
right?
more do you want me to do?
Like you like
I
I won't be mad at you. Like, okay, maybe if you have some overpriced contracts, whatever, you'll get flamed for that. But I mean, it's better than what this situation's going through right now. So I don't know. We'll see what happens over the summer, I guess.
I mean, I think the one really important thing for the Sabres they could do this year to get better is lose. I hate
Yes.
saying teams should tank, but we were talking about this, me, Zach, and Chris in our little group chat. The Sabres really need a first line center really bad because Josh Norris is not a first line center. He's a decent second line center. Tage Thompson should not be playing center anymore. He's a winger.
Mhm.
Ryan McLeod's a third line guy. They don't have a first line center. In this draft, you have two really good center prospects in Michael Misa and James Hagan, and I think the Sabres need to get one of those two.
Getting either of them. If they get a top 3 pick, they're getting one of those two.
Most
Because
likely,
I
yeah.
think I think San Jose, I even like if Nashville ends up in the top 3 and we end up in the top 3, I think they still take Schaefer. I think Schaefer goes top 3 because you look
Yeah,
at
he's the best defenseman in that draft class,
yes,
yeah.
and I think San Jose would go Schaefer no matter what. If he's there, and let's say they get the first overall pick, they're going Schaefer. If Chicago gets the second overall pick, they're probably gonna go Misa, which means we get Hagens at if we get 3-2. Like I think that
Yeah, I think that because they haven't had a first line center since they traded Jack Eichel.
right, and I think it's crucial. Like you said, we preached about it with in our last episode about the Red Wings. Their one downfall is the first line center. I know they're in a much better situation than Buffalo is,
Yeah,
but
Dylan Larkin, I could live with him being like a lower tier first line center. Josh Norris is not a first line
dude,
center.
when I posted that TikTok about Dylan Larkin or whatever, we were that TikTok did really well. The engagement was through the roof, but people were the Red Wings fans found that shit fast, dude. But then it was nice because some of the people are like, I've been saying this for years, man. Like he's not a true first line center. For every one of those comments, there's like 5 comments saying that we don't know puck, and everybody was like, you must not watch Red Wings games, which I fucking don't. But he's still not a first line center.
I mean, we
Anyways,
weren't saying he's a bad player by
that
any
dude,
means. He's a good
somebody was
player.
like, "How can you say Dylan Larkin is the problem?" We didn't say he was the fucking problem, dude.
Well, the Red
Damn.
Wings' problem is the rest of the roster. They have a really
Yes.
good first line. It's just the rest of the lines aren't great.
People just want to listen to what they want to listen to, I guess.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's a reason why they haven't made the playoffs since 2016. That's all I'll say.
I don't blame you. And everybody was like, I know we're going off a topic here, but somebody was like, yeah, Dylan Larkin can be a first line center on a playoff team. Why hasn't it happened yet?
Yeah, I
Anyways,
mean, they might make the playoffs this year, but they're in a
that's,
pretty fierce competition. They should have made the playoffs last year and they fucked it up, and they should have made it this year and they fucked it up.
yep,
So we'll
yep.
see what happens. The season's not over yet, but like I said, there's a reason why they haven't made the playoffs since 2016.
How about them New Jersey Devils? This pains me, dude. This
Yeah,
this pains me, bro, because they're fucked. They are
you
cooked.
were all in on this team.
Yeah, and then Jack Hughes decided to be on the
Yeah, you
injury.
just oh, my shoulder, oh.
It's actually his wrist, thank you.
No, his shoulder.
I thought it was his wrist. I thought he
No,
had
he had
wrist
shoulder
surgery. I
surgery.
thought it was wrist surgery.
I'm 90% sure it was his shoulder.
I could be wrong.
Hold on.
Um,
Shoulder surgery. Yep.
okay, yeah. So yeah, ever since Hughes has been out, I mean they've won 3 straight games so without this man Jack Hughes. But I like going into the playoffs. They're done. They're not getting out of the first round. Like they're gonna end up playing Carolina.
Oh, you
And
haven't even mentioned Dougie Hamilton
oh yeah, Dougie
is
Hamilton is out
out
too.
for the season.
Indefinite. Your two most important players are donezo, which is a big blow for New Jersey. And I get they traded for Markstrom because they needed better goaltending, especially if they have playoff aspirations, which coming into the season they did. And of course, preseason pick I had New Jersey out of the East. Midseason pick I had New Jersey out of the East,
That was still wild.
which seemed decent, like a decent pick both times. I think, in my opinion. I clearly don't have them coming out of the East now, considering I just mentioned they're not getting out of the first round. This sucks if you're a New Jersey fan, man, because that's back-to-back years which you're dealing with injuries to your two most important players,
Mm-hmm.
and you just can't have that happen if you're a team like New Jersey. Like, it feels like every time that we talk about this team, it's not about this team has won 5, 6, 7 straight games. We always talk about it. It's like, damn, Dougie Hamilton's hurt again. Here's Jack Hughes hurt. Nico Heischer's out for a few games. Like, can we just talk about this team? Like, I want to talk about this team. Like, they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals, man, for the first time since, what was it, 2012 when they made the Cup?
Yeah,
So
2014.
2014. So yeah,
No, was it? Yeah, no, it was 2012 they made the cup. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, I got the Rangers was 2014.
you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the Devils, I mean, I was pretty high on them coming into the season too. Yeah, literally the two worst possible things that could have happened to them was, Jack Hughes goes down and Dougie Hamilton goes down. I think the only thing that can make things work is like Nico Hischier got hurt.
Well, if Nico Heischer goes down, this team is double fucked. Like
Yeah.
they're so lucky a team's not on their ass right now for that third spot in the Metro. Unless
Yeah,
Columbus decides
Columbus
to
was
win like
getting
six
pretty
straight games.
close, but I don't see Columbus catching them. They're probably playing the Hurricanes in the first round,
I mean,
starting game one in Carolina.
Columbus was like 4 points back in New Jersey, but Columbus has lost 2 straight, and like I mentioned, New Jersey's won 3 straight.
I
Carolina's won
mean,
6 straight.
New Jersey has two more games played than the Blue Jackets, so never say never. I don't see it happening,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, unless Jacob Markstrom, has a phenomenal playoff, yeah, I have a tough time seeing this team beating the Carolina Hurricanes without, people might say we're overreacting on the Dougie Hamilton thing. He is so important to that team. He is a true number one defenseman, but they rely on him so much for everything. They use
he
him in every kind of situation out there.
he isn't a top tier defenseman in the league, in my opinion. But you don't have to be a top tier defenseman in the league to be your team's most important player. Like everybody talks about Hughes, Heischer, Jesper Bratt, like even Luke Hughes. But Dougie Hamilton is the team's glue. Like he keeps that team together. Like if he's still playing but Jack Hughes is out, I think you could get away and you might be able to steal a couple games in Carolina if the playoffs started today. But now though, like going into the playoffs in mid-April, I just feel like the Hurricanes will beat them in 5 or 6 games. Like I think 6 is the max, unless somehow, like you said, Markstrom carries the team and pushes the series to 7. But then you're going to Carolina, and Carolina's fucking 27-7-1 at home. They have
Yeah,
lost
no,
8 total games at home.
that building for years has been a really hard place for teams to go in and win.
They've been one of the best teams at home for years now. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
that
that barn
building's
gets rocking. Yeah, no,
yeah,
the crowd gets really into it. What do they call them? The Caniacs or something
yeah.
like that? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about New Jersey is they have a good core, they have a good team. They just got to stick with it. One of these years, maybe they'll get lucky and be healthy going into the playoffs.
Just once, be healthy. I mean, the last time they were fully healthy for a season, they made the playoffs and then ended up beating the Rangers in the first round, upset them, which was
With
clearly a
with
shock.
with Vitek Vanacek as their starting goalie.
And Akir Schmid getting some playing time too. And
is
their
Jacob
team.
Markstrom like is a legit number one, and that's what we both said was going to be the difference for them this year, barring injuries. Like they have a true number one goaltender. They're going to be really good, and I think if this team was healthy going in the first round against Carolina, I think they beat Carolina.
I don't disagree with you. That series will go 7 games if the Devils are healthy. It's going 7.
Yeah, I mean they're still going to probably play each other, but we'll see what happens. I mean, you never know.
That series, you've brought it up multiple times, and I do agree that series is going to be so hard. It's gonna be 50-50. I'm leaning Canes, but I think it's harder than what it feels like.
Yeah, I feel like that series is going to be a little hard to watch too.
You think like why
Low
is that like
scoring
slow?
games. Well, Carolina's a slower team. That's their game.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess. I
And if
mean,
Carolina dictates the play, they're comfortable winning low scoring games, and you're losing your best forward and your best puck moving defenseman. I mean, I think this is a good opportunity for Luke Hughes to step up. He's going to get a lot more ice time. I know he's only 21. This is his second full year in the NHL, but we'll see what he can do.
yeah, and we'll see if Luke Hughes can step up for sure. That's going to end it for today's episode. If you guys enjoy all of our content, all of our socials are down below, as well as the subscribe and notification bell. If you guys are listening on Apple and Spotify, head over to our YouTube, subscribe there. We'll see you guys in our next episode.